Hello everyone, we are Art of War.
And we believe in creating a community where people can talk about, learn, and improve their skills at Warhammer 40K.
Our channel has live stream competitive matches of 40K, played by the best players in the world.
And we focus on teaching you how to get better at Warhammer, while also emphasizing sportsmanship and engagement with our audience.
We strive to play every faction in the game to a top level, while also using a variety of lists to show off different playstyles for every faction.
We also offer a variety of other videos such as codex reviews, faction rankings, tactics videos.
When you join our channel, you become part of our community, where we emphasize learning and positive conversation about competitive 40K.
You get early access to our videos, sub badges, emotes, as well as rewatch those hangout and hobby sessions.
Joining our community is a great way for you to show your support for us, so we can keep making awesome videos for you and continuously expand the bounds of competitive 40K.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Hangout and Hobby. I'm Richard Ziegler. This is the Archon himself. It's Archon Scary.
It is me, it is I. I have exited the webway and graced you, Monkai, with my presence.
What bad things were you up to, Scary? I want to hear about them.
What bad things? I did Charity Hammer this weekend.
Charity
Hammer, I
okay.
shoutcasted, and I helped out, and I slept okay, but this weekend was busy. Busy.
Busy?
So now I get to do some hobby. It's Monday, I'm excited. Yeah, just about to... I saw that Empress Champion this morning, and all the Black Templar, I
like it.
Just bubbles. My whole Black Templar army was screaming at me from the shelf, being like, remember your true path, brother.
I am just waiting for Devout Push to be gone, and then all the Black
Templar
community is just
get out of
outraged.
here. Get out of here. Anyway, so this is what I'm building today. A Devout Push machine to fill with Blade Guard veterans. That's gonna be what I do with this. It's gonna be so fun.
Little known fact about Scary is he is in fact also a Black Templars player. How did that start, Scary? Because I don't think it's not well publicized that you also play Black Templars a lot.
Well, Black Templars was my original army. So I started in 3rd edition Warhammer 40,000 with Black Templars because they were the Space Marine army that was on the box, basically. And it came with Dark Eldar, and it was not a balanced box, Richard. Not a balanced box at all. And so I ended up playing Space Marines, and I did for a very long time. I've been playing about as long as I played Black Templars now with my Dark Eldar. So it's been about 50-50 over 20-some years.
Would you believe that I started with that same box set in 3rd edition?
I would believe it. It was a very popular box set back in the day.
Started with Blood Angels. My brother hated Drukhari, so he instead switched to Tau.
My brother played Tau. My brother actually started with Tau back in 3rd edition.
Tau was so hard to play back then. My God.
Rhino Rush was not friendly to Tau at all. Oh my goodness gracious. Anyway, that's how I started. Started a long time ago. Played Black Templars for a very long time. And then around, was it 4th edition? No. Early 5th edition. Or late 4th edition, early 5th edition. I switched to Dark Eldar after going on like a 40-game win streak with my Black Templars, and nobody wanted to play me. So I was like, I'll play the army that no one plays, Dark Eldar, and everybody says they're terrible. And then that was the start of that, and I fell in love with being a pirate. It was great.
It fits you. Definitely fits you.
Thank you. I appreciate the sentiment.
I'm a big fan of Pirate Scary.
Yeah. Arg. We have a question. Says Siegler. I YOLO'd, says SF, and managed to grab 3 Grey Knight Strike Squad boxes and 3 Nemesis Red Knights. Please tell me that I haven't made a grave mistake.
I mean, it's still early days to tell what are going to be the best Grey Knight lists, but you can't go wrong with the Strike Squad boxes. And Dread Knights, you'll probably be running 1 Grandmaster. There's a lot of tools to help buff them. I get to teleport after you declare a shooting attack against me, the 3-up invuln for a turn. There's extra defensive mechanics that'll help the Grandmaster out. So I could definitely see running one. They're still pretty pricey when you put all the buffs on them. But, you know, there are tools
are they
to
still
help survive.
vehicles?
Yeah, they're
Still
still
vehicles, so you can still heal them with a Tech Marine, I'm assuming.
Yep, and the relic exists to still heal flat 3. So
that's cool.
if you're running multiple Dread Knights, you'll definitely be taking the Tech Marine with that relic.
Yeah, that's a handy dandy piece of tech there that a lot of people don't remember.
I'm not convinced on running a lot of them though. The move blocking is real. It's like any Dreadnought heavy or vehicle heavy army. If you're playing on denser terrain, it's just too easy to move block a lot of vehicles. 1 or 2, not so bad. So
yeah,
access as well. But thanks so much for that super chat, Ben. Very much appreciated. And I will be playing Grey Knights tomorrow on the live stream on YouTube, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, up against John Lennon playing the Thousand Suns. So that's going to be a really good game between the new 2 codexes.
What is it with all these? I just want to say, it's funny that the box set comes out and it's like Grey Knights versus Thousand Suns, and then like all the pre-release battle reports I've seen, or release battle reports, are like Grey Knights versus Thousand Suns. When are you actually going to have Grey Knights play Thousand Suns like at a tournament? Like, truthfully,
rare.
Big rare. Like, that's not going to happen.
But it is hype because they're new codexes.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But they're both new codexes. But wouldn't you want to see like Grey Knights versus Orcs, or Thousand Suns versus Orcs? Like, that'd be cool.
We're gonna play all that on this channel. We have Games Workshop Orlando, so that's gonna slow us down a little bit since we will be leaving on Wednesday, and thus no.
Are you going to this finally?
I'm going to this.
Oh my goodness! You're going to an event.
Nick will be traveling with us. We've got.
So who's in charge of the house while you're gone?
Nobody. I'm gone. I'm gonna leave it to the servitors that I have lying around. They'll do a good job.
I like it.
Servitors like Mr. Scary and Brad Chester, who aren't going, will be doing a preview on Friday.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. It's gonna be fun.
Once those lists are live.
They'll have a jump in popularity, to be honest.
They should.
Biff Pod.
Biff Pod? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think it was pretty much on almost all channels. Biff Pod did main it. But yeah, it was John Lennon's like sisters versus Jaime's Space Wolves. Like, he made it all the way through. Like, he beat Nick. He beat
Brad. He beat 2 of the best Drukhari players out there.
He crushed people with that Space Wolf list.
He beat 3 Drukhari in a row because he beat JT in the first round, I believe. Yeah.
And then he beats like crazy Ultramarine Dreadnought list, which is pretty much like John's Ultramarine list.
It is John's Ultramarine list.
You know what I mean? And like, he just destroyed people with it. It was really cool to see, actually, like how he played it. He like outmaneuvered Colin big time, and then went in, and I was like, oh, Nick's got this, and then Nick gets crushed while I'm sleeping. I'm like, what is going on? And then he like gives John a run for his money in the finals. It's actual play.
Yeah, very impressive. Hopefully we'll be able to get him on one of the Art of War podcasts to talk about his Space Wolves again. Let's see. Are you playing John? Yes, I will be playing the Grey Knights. John will be playing the Thousand Suns in tomorrow's stream game. So we'll see how that goes. Hot takes on the Grey Knights from Chaotic. I think it's an interesting book. They took away a lot of the tools, a lot of the stuff Grey Knights did well, and they've completely transitioned to being a melee army instead of a shooting army. So I'm building towards that.
Do they have any good fight last mechanics?
Fight last mechanics? No. They have some heroic shenanigans, access to that, and they have a couple ways for fight first, which is obviously less powerful.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's definitely gonna, being like a melee-centric army with like no access to fight last. Like, that's, I think, gonna be an interesting sort of like thing. Like, the fight first is good and all in like protracted combats, but a lot of combats aren't really protected anymore. They're just like
that's why
straight up like they happen and that's it. You know what I mean?
There's a psychic power to do a lot of mortals if you're in engagement range of something. But if you're in engagement range in the psychic phase, somehow that combat wasn't resolved, which is going to be unusual. So
yeah, usually if somebody's charging you, it's gonna like murder you. You know what I mean? Like, well, at least in a competitive sense. Maybe in like a friendly or whatever, there's a lot less polarity when it comes to that sort of stuff. But I find that from a competitive perspective?
The infantry is really good. The strike marine base. Halberds are awesome. Falchions are great. The combination of words of power, the chaplain litany with Hammerhand, which has been upgraded to reroll wounds, so powerful. And then Tide of Convergence as well. Grey Knights can pump out a ton of damage in melee, and then their psychic phase is not quite as consistent as it was in the previous edition because they don't have +1 to cast, which is a huge deal. But they have regular smites.
They have a stratagem for +1 to cast around a brother captain.
Yep, they do, but some of their strats are a little pricey.
Hunter does note that you can add the Inquisitors in for the fight last.
He could he could Traxxas, but
like that's a, you know what I mean, like, okay, so yes, there are options. It just means that you're kind of hamstrung into sort of like adding something like that in, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just means that you're sort of like, if you want to take something that's really good for the current meta, you sort of have to already get a second book. You know what I mean? And you have to use a second sort of set of rules. Double Citan Conquerors is also there's something I can get behind. Double Citan. Matthew Nurgle, what's going on, Matthew? How's it going?
Nurgle Matt was watching pretty much every stream game. Man did not sleep.
It was awesome.
Just relentless. Great. I
love it. Yeah, it's really cool. So, what are your expectations for Tau? Like, now that I'm curious because I want to hear your wish list. Like, what you're a huge Tau aficionado, even with the shit show that is, pardon my language, that is the Tau Codex right now. Like, you're a faction specialist, right? Like, when anybody says competitive Tau, everybody says, "Oh, Richard Siegler knows what the hell he's doing." So, you know, what is like your thought process with the faction? Where is it going? Like, where do you think it could go? And are there any mechanics that you see them keeping or changing, that sort of thing, with the new codex?
So, funnily enough, I just recorded an episode with Blake from the Art of War Unbroken. So I'll be on that podcast talking about how to design lists for underpowered factions, and then specifically talking about Tau and some of the games that I played with them, how I built that list to do well against S-tier armies. So that's coming out probably next week, I think. But keep your eyes peeled for that. Now, what I want Tau to be, I don't want Tau to be like, you know, a notion in the community is just that they just shoot people off the board. That is so boring, and I have no interest in that. So I hope they don't go for just Tau get mass firepower everywhere. I hope they buff some of the weapons to be in line with what 9th edition has given things. So more consistent anti-tank weapons. The infantry weapons are upgraded. Love to see all that. But Tau is primarily a mobility army, and then they have interesting defensive mechanics. So I'd love to see them get, you know, there's a stratagem between the ghost keels and the stealth suits to essentially teleport unit from side to side. Yep, exactly. Yeah. I'd love to see more stuff like that isn't specifically locked to you having these two relatively expensive units. I'd love to see, you know, more love for the
shenanigans sort of thing, like tactical, like in play, you know, moving around and cloak and shadows sort of stuff.
Exactly. You declare a charge, I get to move up to 3 inches or something in a different direction. You don't have to make it, you know, crazy. But
I could see the Pathfinder guy. What's his name? The
Darkstrider?
Yeah, I could see the Darkstrider. He has like that sort of thing when like you can fall back and shoot or whatever. Or things like that.
+1 to wound.
I could see him doing something like that, like, you know, pick a unit, they can like overwatch and then move or something. You know what I mean? That would be really cool.
I'd love to see them have more abilities to reduce enemy mobility. So things like Tanglefoot, I'd love to see Tau get something similar to that.
Not just a super relic pistol that you rarely see.
Or like the Grav Drum, minus D3 to charges in an aura. Love seeing that type of stuff. So if Tau can have a lot of mobility and at the same time restrict your opponents, then, you know,
like suppression. Do you ever play Dawn of War? Like with the town stuff, like the computer game. Yeah, they had like the freaking burst cannons. They like slow you down, like they you just get annoyed, and then it break morale a lot faster because they were just like you were being suppressed. Yeah, basically, I could see a mechanic like that being kind of cool.
So I would like to see Tau be one of the premier mobility armies.
Rivaling the Eldar,
tricks. All sorts of tricks. Tricks to reduce charges, prevent people from getting that close, and if they get close to you, it's on your terms. I'd like Tau to be that kind of army.
I feel like a well balanced army is one that can kind of interact with the game in multiple phases.
Yeah.
So you've got like the fight phase or the movement phase, the combat phase, the morale phase. Like the more phases that your army sort of like does things in, I feel like the stronger your list is in a lot of cases. So how do you sort of like take away just that, like, and you've so and with your list building, you've sort of shoehorned that by adding in like the super crisis suits that can also do combat sort of thing.
Yeah.
So you're not like just a moot point in close combat, like you have some ability, or you're using it for moving or like
I use it all the
trapping or
time for moving.
shenanigans.
Yeah.
Exactly, right. So you found a way to play into the combat phase to make sure you're using it for something. But how would you, other than making Kroot better, do you feel like a close combat Fire Warrior unit might be on the horizon, like a Breachers with like, I don't know, close combat weapons or something?
I very much doubt it. They seem to be pretty anti-Tauget melee, and I wouldn't be surprised if ATS doesn't work on all your weapons, including your basic combat weapon, and when they finally get a codex. But I'd love to see them do like a unit like Farside Enclaves, get access to some extra melee relics. Right now, the one that they have, or they have the Honor Gauntlet in the Codex, which is just one extra attack at this profile. It should just be you get to attack at the profile.
But that's an
Fusion
experimental piece of gear, right?
Yeah, and then you have
So
Fusion
historically,
Blades.
they've added those experimental gears as like regular gear for suits in like the next codex. So wouldn't you kind of like to see maybe a whole crisis suit squad equipped with Honor
Something
gauntlets?
something like that. Just make it so they're working on prototypes of these things. They don't have to core part, but if you don't take one of the weapon slots, you leave it empty on a crisis unit, you can instead upgrade their fist to be Honor Gauntlet, something like that.
I love it. That'd be so cool. Imagine, I'm gonna punch you.
I would love for them to have shields like Shazo Raleigh, which is essentially a storm shield for up and 1/1 saving throws, and then be able to give them swords, fusion blades. That would be sick.
Imagine. I could see like that they've developed to face the Tyrannid menace or something. You know what I mean? Like we've developed them to kill Hormagaunts, and it's like a bunch of just like close combat shenanigans on a crisis suit or a stealth suit,
You don't want to mess with my crisis commanders. They have killed all sorts of... I've killed Blood Angel captains in combat with Tau commanders.
I've learned
Riptides.
never to underestimate the Tau in close combat. Like, they will surprise you.
I've killed 2 of Nick's While We Stands with a single Remora in combat, one of which was -1 to hit, so hitting on 6s.
Oh my
That
goodness.
happens. Need to take 1 wound off, the Remoras are going in.
It's what we call nickel and diamond, where I come from.
I mean, sometimes you gotta put it on the line.
I'll kill a knight with the last little poison pistol that I have left with my army. This hasn't shot. Need a 6-2 wound. You fail that armor save. Boom.
Split your
Done.
pistols?
Clown mode. Thank you very much for the super chat. Thanks everybody for tuning in. By the way, everybody watching, welcome to Hobby and Chat, Hangout and Hobby, with the 2 bestest people in all of the land, and all of you, because you're also really cool. Clown mode says, "What do you want to see for Craftworlds?"
What do you want to see, Scary?
What do I want to see for Craftworlds? It's more of a modeling sort of thing. I want to see all the updated Aspect Warriors, basically, and the updated Phoenix Lords. You just know that they have them ready. Like, they're just sitting in a folder called New Aspect Warriors, CADs, whatever it is. I just want to see them released. As for rules and stuff, I don't know. Like, I feel like if you get a mix of like Drukhari and then like take some of the elements that are really good for the Drukhari and then add them into the Craftworld list, but then maybe mix a little bit of the Harlequin-y stuff, and then some, I think you could. It's like a hybrid. I feel like good site. The Craftworld book isn't bad. If most things weren't as expensive, as they are, like they could do okay even in the current meta. It's just everything's way too expensive for what you get.
I think the biggest thing is giving them actual combat units that are efficient for their points. Right now, their combat stuff is just all overcosted. So it'd be really nice to see things like Striking Scorpions actually have a role. kind of like Incubi got. Howling Banshees can, of course, get better. You know, I would just like to see the melee side of things improved.
Yeah, not only that, like Howling Banshees even now, they're not terrible. They just, you need like 400 points worth of characters and a detachment to like make them work, right?
Or Wraith Blades.
I mean,
like they're not terrible, but
yeah,
they have limitations.
They're just really expensive for what you get, right?
And you need the defensive buff, so all the casters have to, start casting and the.
So you're like, yeah, okay, I'm going to spend 400 points on a unit of Wraith Blades, but then you're like, okay, it's 400 points for a unit of Wraith Blades, and then 200 points for the characters, and then all my psychic support's going to go on the same units, and then it ends up kind of, like diluting what they're capable of in a lot of ways.
You know how they've been adding character upgrades to most factions, where you can spend a bunch of points and get like a one-time ability? That'd be great for Craftworlds if you could pay a certain amount of points and give them like a future vision, and that means you pay to auto pass a particular power that turn. Can't be denied, stuff like that. So, all right, I really need Doom to go off this turn. I spent the 20 points pre-game. It automatically goes off. Can't be denied. Done. So that would be really cool.
Like Masters of Psyker, like Masters of the
Psychic
Warp
Mastery,
or whatever. Yeah, that'd be really cool, actually.
I think that would help them out because there are turns where you just need those powers to go off, and even with the rerolls, it's not guaranteed, and they don't go off, and then you're, oops, I needed that. Like, this army is built around having Jinx and Doom up.
Did it again. You played with my heart.
That would be really cool if they went that direction with the character upgrades.
Yeah. That Warlocks, I think Warlocks are supposed to be like, battle Warlocks. They're battle psychers. You know what I mean? So it'd be cool to see them, like, I don't know, like, kind of revamp the whole, like, the court, not the court of the Archon.
Always thinking about the Sliths and Urgles.
Oh my goodness, I'm thinking about Sliths and Urgles. I don't own enough Sliths to do what Nick does, but it'd be really cool to be able to run it.
It's a lot of fun just watching it trundle across the table. All of a sudden, the unit moves 20 inches. Like, what?
Nuts. Yep.
Bunch of 5 of Pain.
Captain Athenos says, while watching Charity Hammer, I saw you follow Idle War member Alex is nicknamed Ogo Pogo, a lake monster from my city. Is he from Okanagan? Alex McDougall is from British Columbia in Canada. So I'm not sure why his nickname would be Ogo Pogo. It might be like a reference to something he read or a story, But that's interesting.
Yeah, I have no idea. I didn't even know.
You can always ask him. You can always send a message on the War Room Discord or something, or the Facebook page. I'm sure he'll answer, or send him like a text message if you know his number. Where is this? There we go.
What's your favorite nickname that you have?
Mine? Mexican. Dirty Mexican. That's what they call me.
Who calls
you
that?
Time. All my friends from Stratford, Ontario, Canada. My original stomping ground. See, my brother was the nice one, and I was the dirty Mexican. So that's okay. I was born and raised. By the way, I'm Mexican, so I'm. They're not like incredibly racist. And I came to Canada about 15 years ago now. No, 17 years ago now.
17
Holy
years.
crap.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, I came to Canada when I was 18. I'm 32 now. 2034 now. Yeah, it's a long time ago.
Scar's slowly shaving years off himself.
Let's just say it's been a while, and I am getting older. I'm getting older. And not... What should I equip this Impulsor with?
I actually like the blast weapons, the assault launchers. And
yeah, you like that better? Well, I guess if in a world where everything's like... There's just stuff everywhere. Like the little dude bros or whatnot. Andrew Smallwood says, overall thoughts on the Thousand Suns Codex?
I'm going to be honest, I have not read through the Thousand Suns.
I have not read through it either. I'm reserving judgment.
I've read the Grey Knight rules.
Yeah, on the Codex until I read it. I am playing against Thousand Suns this Wednesday. I'm going to be doing like a little bat report and stuff, which will be really fun. Playing against Cody, who's our Team Canada WTC coach. So that'll be fun. It'll be more of a fun, like learning the rules game rather than a hyper competitive game. But I kind of I like the idea of the Reaper cannons. Those things sound scary. Did you see what they do with the strat there?
What's their strat?
Okay, they have like a strat where if they shoot at a unit that has multiple models, right?
Yeah.
They get like a bunch of extra shots each, and they're like become their strength like 5 to AP3 or something like that. So like when they shoot at big units, they like hose them down. So they'd be like the perfect anti-ATMEC thing.
Well, AP3 is great. Yeah, AP3 would be great.
I believe it was AP3. Then again, somebody could like tell me in chat that I'm totally wrong because I haven't read the actual rules.
I heard that they have very efficient stacking pluses to cast. They have those cool.
Oh, and their vehicles got a 5-up invul save now, right? So like, they actually got like a ward save basically. So I believe that rhinos get it now and stuff.
Yeah, their trait is so much better than the Grey Knight one because it's just better into most matchups. 5-up Phenopane against mortals is cool, but not against most people.
Well, against the Dark Lance, being able to be like, oh, my Rhino has a 5-up against your Dark Lance.
Yeah, it's huge.
Oh, it's amazing. It's so good.
And +1 to deny, like, come on. How did they get both of those as their traits? That's unbelievable. They could have gotten anything else. They should have got, like, +1 to psychic damage or something. That would have been actually useful in most matchups. But luckily it wasn't some crazy anti-demon thing. They toned down the anti-demon stuff.
Now, something I did read is I read the Grey Knight secondaries, and I have to admit I was underwhelmed.
The psychic secondary is awesome. You're taking that automatically every game.
What's the psychic secondary do?
It's you do the psychic action on any number of objectives with any number of units, and depending on how many objectives you do it on, you get a certain number of points.
You can only do it on objectives that haven't been purified, right?
No, I thought you could keep doing the same one.
100% sure it's...
Let me see.
Yeah. Well, then again, if I misread it, then sure.
I think you misread it.
Then I hope I did, because then that would actually be
kind of... It seemed like something you could easily map, even in the late game.
Because I looked at it and go, well, you're getting 6 points only or whatever, so maybe.
See. I gotta find where they are.
Although this week as well, I am finally gonna sit down and read through the Orc Codex, which I think will be really fun. I've got Richard Kilton coming on and Steve Pamprine, two of the big orc dude bros, orky stuff, which will be super fun.
The objective can't be purified more than once in the same turn. So just turn after turn, you can do the same objective. Okay. So if you do 2 objectives each turn, you get 2 points each. But all you need is 2 turns where you get 3 objectives for 4 points, and you're sitting pretty.
Right.
So,
and now is it a just do the psychic action right then and there, or is it a
warp charge 5? Doesn't matter if enemies are on the objective already. It's very good. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! It just has the ability to be denied or whatever, which can always be a bit risky into certain matchups.
Into certain matchups, but yeah.
So I stand corrected. That is definitely a hell of a lot better than what I had read it.
The shooting one, the one where you come in from gate or the teleport or whatever the other one, the stratagem, you get points for killing stuff. That's cool, but probably not going to be taken that often.
I wonder what the Thousand Suns ones are like. I haven't read them. I cannot wait. I'm just sad that I didn't get my pre-release Codex book. If not, I would have had like an early morning, and you would have had all the stuff after and whatnot. It would have been so much easier. It doesn't say purified. It says fat dingo. What's going on, Richard?
5-up Phenopane against mortals useful in every matchup since you perils all the time. I am taking that librarian for the I don't perils in this area.
Especially, oh man, the amount of times I've had like perils like win me a game because my opponent's like, God, psych perils. No.
Perils is less punishing now that they have the extra wound, but still, I don't want to be taking it turn after turn, especially if I'm not taking the apothecary.
Especially on characters. Do they have access to master chaplains stuff?
They didn't get any of that. That was just
really?
They got visions and stuff, which were cool, but they didn't get chief apothecary or
So the
reliable
chaplain's litanies are still just a 3-up.
You can spend the strat for just auto passive for 2
Oh,
CP.
you're probably gonna 2 CP for that. Well,
Yeah,
I guess you're gonna be
it's
doing
pricey.
that a lot if you really need something to go off. Then
I think when you commit a big unit and you need to do crazy damage, you'll spend the CP, but otherwise you just roll it. And that if you get it 2 or 3 of the turns, it's still a lot of damage. Words of Power is amazing.
yeah,
The amount of mortals you can put out with Tide of Conversions just gets insane.
I'm glad they kept the tides as well. It's
Yeah,
like
the tides
cool
are cool.
mechanic. You know what I mean? Like I like the tides mechanic. I'm learning how to use a new hobby knife. For the longest time in my life, I've just used an X-Acto knife, like a box cutter. I finally got
box
myself
cutter?
an
Jeez.
actual.
That's
Yeah,
dangerous.
just use a. No, this is more dangerous than a box cutter. This thing right here.
It's
a
certainly
hell of a
when
lot
Nick holds it in
sharper.
his hand. Nick has got himself on those things far too many times.
So I finally got one, and I'm trying to not slice my finger open because of the shape. I just feel like the box cutter is just. Anyway, I'm just used to a box cutter. That's all. Siegler gonna run dreadnoughts now.
The Dread Knights, I will run. I'm going to test out the 1 Grandmaster with all the buffs and see how I like them. But I am not convinced on running a bunch of Dread Knights. It's too
How many
easy to
points
move
are
on
they?
them. When you start adding all the guns and stuff, they get expensive. They get like 170, 75 points.
How many are they? Still the same amount of wounds and toughness?
They're-
Like they didn't really.
They're T6 13 wounds now instead of 12. And they have a 4-up invuln.
Which what used to be a 5-up?
Yeah. The Grandmaster's always had the invuln.
Do you still have sanctuary or the ability to like make?
Yeah,
them...
but it can only be cast on certain things.
Interesting.
Um,
And they're vehicles, so I don't know. Like
It's they have large bases though. It's really easy to
They're
move block
very
if you're running a
large.
whole bunch of them. The infantry is just so good. It's so efficient for its points. The Grey Knights have tons of cheap trading pieces that are actually quite durable now, and they're all putting out full range smites. So you can stack up a ton of mortals in a turn, depending on what build you're going for. But
there we go. Matthew says he also uses a box cutter. Awesome. And Clown Mode, thank you for the super chat. Says what wombo combo do Grey Knights have? Wombo combos, the big combos.
The
I
main
guess.
combos are the melee combos that they have. So they have a really cool brotherhood called Rapiers, which it's +1 attack is their psychic power. So all your units that are in this brotherhood know that power, so they can cast it on themselves. And if you're in the Tide, everybody can successively cast that same power in that brotherhood at -1 to cast. So a bunch of extra units can get pluses to attack. You could also run the Brotherhood Ancient if you want, and that's an aura of +1 attack. And falchions also give you +1 attack. So you could have and Grey Knights now are base 3 attacks. So you could put out a ton of attacks on a unit. You could have full rerolls from Drago to hit, and then if a Brother Captain's nearby, you can get reroll wounds. And
The captain's a lieutenant now, eh?
yeah, he's the lieutenant now since Smite is normal. He doesn't need to buff that anymore. So overall, you can pump out a ton of attacks, and then Hammer Hand now, instead of +1 to wound, it's reroll wounds, which is amazing in this era where there's a lot of abilities that you can only wound things on 4, 5s, and 6s. Yeah. So reroll wounds on the unit in combat. They're rerolling hits from Drago, and then there is Words of Power, which means that on 6s to wound in melee, it's an additional wound, like Iron Hands have with that strat, and it's a mortal wound. And if you're in Tide of Convergence, you're doing another mortal as well. So you can just fish for the 6s, and everything's hitting so efficiently because of Drago.
Do you think it'll be in like waves where you kind of like
you
trade
just
a unit?
turn after turn after turn after turn. That's why I think Interceptors are amazing, because the
Super
Interceptors,
fast.
they don't actually need the extra movement from the Rhino usually. They can just move their 12 inches and then get into their opponent's lines. Or on,
Is there a way to get like an advance in charge or anything like that on them? Or
There is a the Rapier's Warlord trait is advance in charge on a character. So
Nice.
only thing that can get it, I put it in the Grandmaster in the list I'm going to run tomorrow. Even though I'm not going to advance him very often because I want to shoot his guns, still
increases his threat range exponentially.
Exactly. Him getting onto an objective or killing something could end up being huge. So
Do they have lots of access to OBSEC, or is it just mainly the strikes?
they do. They got the Super Obsec Warlord trait. It's called
They did? Rights of War or whatever?
Yeah, well, they got Unyielding Anvil, which is essentially the same thing. But
Amazing.
So it is incredibly strong, and that's an automatic.
That's
Just like Space Marines, that's something that is going to carry Grey Knights extremely far.
Yes.
That Warlord trait is amazing.
Just really encourages me to take Ooga Booga Homunculus even more now. That's right.
So
take away your obsec. Get out of here.
It's just such a powerful thing to have, especially when Grey Knights want to commit to the center of the table.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's what exactly... I think somebody in chat nailed it earlier. Is just running MSU, a lot of 5-man units, and then maybe a couple, like 1 or 2 10-mans of the infantry stuff, and just turn after turn after turn trading stuff. That seems how Grey Knights are going to play. You don't have Astrolabe. You don't have one unit just sitting in your deployment zone killing stuff each turn. So you're going to have to be even more careful with your resources because you're not whittling your opponents as quickly as you used to.
And plus, Astrolabe used to be like a big thing, right? But then again, if they can do a lot of damage just like at face value, you don't really need to like hide as much. Especially if you're good into the trading game, where you can like do that whole trade and trade and trade and trade and trade. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why I think just stuff to turn after turn, get into a good midfield position, and then keep trading resources. So interceptors have that extra speed since the army doesn't have advance and charge outside of that warlord trait. So that's what I'm going for. I'm going for 2 units of interceptors and then a bunch of strike units and some purgators to give me a little bit extra shooting. Even though the shooting got toned down a bit, which is unfortunate. Like all the crazy shooting combos got very toned down.
Yeah, plus if there's good terrain on the board, then you should be able to sort of dictate the pace of the game.
I think it's fine because if we look at the most recent terrain formats, WTC and the Games Workshop terrain that they're using at Orlando, New Orleans, and Austin, it's extremely dense. There's barely any firing angles. So being able to teleport into space, which there's tons of space on the very outskirts of those boards, and being able to move your army into the center and then go from ruin to ruin, Grey Knights actually play that very well. So we're going to play on GW terrain tomorrow. We'll see how they do against
GW terrain, though, with the big bases, can be a pain in the butt.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm not running more than one Grandmaster.
Yeah.
Or
like in a normal like Nova style, like I guess the Dread Knights are definitely like less of a hampering. But yeah, and like when you have those giant area terrain pieces and like the big ruins and they're all clumped up together or whatever, like it can be a little harder to move those pieces around.
Yeah.
And or it's like you have those choke points, right?
Exactly. You just send a cheap 5-man unit to move block your opponent's vehicles, and cool. Now you get a whole extra turn to deal with them.
Yep.
So I'm not a big fan of running multiple Dread Knights. I don't actually think it's that good. Not against like good players.
You heard it here first, folks. It's not that good, and I quote.
The infantry, however, are awesome.
Yeah, infantry, fantastic. This is gonna be fun. You know how many of these I've built? I have built so many of these little dudes. Like so many of these. They are ridiculous how many you build. Oh, it's so crazy.
I did not expect Terminators to get worse. That was just insane.
Why did they get worse?
They went up in points and they barely got anything. They got the extra wound, cool. But now they're insanely overcosted compared to Strike
regular
Marines.
Terminators?
Yeah, just regular Terminators. Paladins went down in points, but they also got nothing, basically. Honored Knight's keyword is pretty terrible.
What does that do?
It means you can't access a lot of good rolls. That's basically what it does.
Wow.
So if they got the bodyguard keyword, the Paladins would have been fine, but they didn't. So I don't think you're going to be seeing.
Did they get an extra wound at least? Or
no, there's 3 wounds. They're just a Terminator with an extra attack.
Well, that's a bit lackluster then, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not going to be playing with any Terminators in these first couple variants.
Yeah.
But
I guess we'll see. I'm sure there'll be somebody out there. There'll be somebody out there that runs like 10 Paladins and like 20 Terminators or something. You know?
Yeah, take the Apothecary for 5 of Feel No Pain. Give them the +1 saving throw. Like, they're still reasonably durable.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Greek Spartan says, what are your thoughts on 2 Locust Heavy Destroyers or 1 Canoptek Doomstalker?
It's a hard question because they're both pretty poor in terms of shooting units in the context of the meta. For Necrons, they're still. As you saw in my Necron list, I don't run either of them. I think they're both very bad. They don't either have enough shots or enough consistency to do damage, reliable damage that you want. So if I had to pick, though, I'd run the Locust Heavy Destroyers.
I would too, but I'd run 3 of them.
The Doomstalker is super hard to hide.
So hard to hide. Oh, it's not bad with like obscuring and stuff.
But yeah,
like
once
then you have to pop him out, and he's not like a tank commander that will like almost guarantee that when you pop out you murder what you're looking at. Right, like a tank commander pops out and unloads a bazillion shots at something and nukes it, right, and then usually dies in return. A Doomstalker will, like, it's the D6 shots. You know what I mean? Like it's just not reliable. Okay, so you pop him out, he shoots something, and then he dies.
At least with the Locust, you have access to rerolls
and reanimation if they don't murder your entire unit. It is.
It's just dead.
Yeah, it's
You're
very
against
unlikely.
A good list, they're gone.
I do prefer the Locusts though, for sure. To be honest, I actually just prefer Locust Destroyers, just like the regular run-of-the-mill destroyers. They can kill a bunch of stuff too.
They really underperform though. Like
they do, but they're better than like nothing. Ideally,
honestly,
you're just taking a bunch of warriors with like Reaper Flayers or whatever, and they
just take more stuff to help you play the mission. Honestly, I wouldn't worry about overspending on anti-tank. Just beat people on the mission. You don't need to kill every model in their army.
Score your points and you win.
Hopefully when we get John tomorrow, we can do a little hot takes video. That'll talk about Thousand Sons and Grey Knights. But everybody is traveling back from Charity Hammer, so we're just holding down the fort here. But it's just me. And Scurry from a distance. But
that's all you get me for right now. It's a distance.
A lot of people are saying Thousand Sons got the better of the books. That remains to be seen. We're going to put them head-to-head tomorrow. In terms of just having rules that are better into the meta overall, Thousand Sons probably have the leg up there. But Grey Knight's got some good stuff. Not a ton of good stuff, but they got some. And we'll see how powerful that is.
Grey Knights will be left in the dust. Ha! Get it? That was a Thousand Sons joke.
It's just like they got a Necron-esque codex where whoever was writing it was super careful about making sure certain things weren't overpowered and wouldn't be disruptive to the meta. They're like, all right, we have to tone this down, make sure this doesn't do this, these don't interact. It's very Necron-esque in that way.
What was that person when they were writing the AdMech book?
They were like, those guys are silly for putting restrictions on here. Here's a book with no restrictions. You're going to have a ton of fun with this. Every unit pretty much is viable. Go play. Go have fun. And then the Grey Knight guy was like, all right, well, we can't let them take the Terminators because in the lore, even though every model in the army has access to Terminator armor, whatever. It's disappointing. It's very disappointing.
Can you do a series of videos where it's just you being disappointed at people's...
Mostly the Games Workshop design team for just having a lack of imagination. Like, half of the team is awesome, and then the other half is just... I don't even know what they're doing.
You lack imagination.
They're like a bunch of Blizzard employees who got on early, and then they just get to stay in the company forever.
Burn.
That's what's happening.
Burn.
Like, come on. Who are writing these codexes?
I don't know. I'm very, very... You played since 3rd edition, so you know what it was like to never have codexes ever. Yeah. So from that perspective, you can't complain. But like,
they're better than
funny.
Yeah, they're better than they've ever been. But at the same time, compared to like industry, like gaming industry standards, they're still quite far behind.
I agree with that statement. That is definitely an accurate statement. This has been very fun. I really... You know how like you build like 50 rhinos over the course of your career and you're like, I'll never build another rhino again. But then you go back to like building another one and it's just... I don't know, it just feels right. Damn it. It just feels right, It's just like, I feel... It's just nice.
I'm done building rhinos. I have plenty of them. And that was built up over many years. There's no more new rhinos being added to the collection.
This is an impulsor, so it's kind of like a new age rhino. So even though I'll never build another rhino or predator, or well, Mark, I don't know if I will or won't, but impulsor is like the new age rhino, so I guess that counts. And it's very similar in build to a regular rhino.
I can't tell you the last time I saw a predator on the table.
Oh boy, predator is like my first heavy tank. Predator Destructor with an autocannon and heavy bolters was legit like the only long range support I had in my Black Templar army for the longest time till I got my Land Raider Crusader.
Hell yeah! With Grey Knights, that was my favorite thing. Was third edition Grey Knights, Demon Hunters, Land Raider with Terminators inside. They come out, they force weapon stuff. It's awesome.
They just kill everything. They literally killed everything. It was legitimately amazing.
Miss those
That's
days.
how that went.
The poor Land Raider. Like, come on, just drop it. Like, come on, drop it 75 points and just be done with it. Let it be. If it's silly, just fine. Let people play the Land Raider.
Not terrible though.
It's not awful. Like, you see people run like the Achilles, the Forge World variant, but
I run my Crusader all the time. That's also because I'm a madman.
You need to put it in a chapter where it gets like actual buffs to its defense.
But you'd be surprised. I just run it as a Black Templar one because I get Crusaders out of it and I feel nostalgic.
And then you sit with a paperweight in your in the middle of the
my
table.
Case?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, which is fine. Whatever. I'm gonna let my opponent worry about what I put in my list. I'm not gonna worry about what I put in my list. It's actually a philosophy that has helped me well throughout the years. Let my opponent worry about my army list. Me, I'm just gonna play my army list. They can worry about what I put in it.
Let's see. How are orcs looking after Charity Hammer? It was really cool to see a ton of orc lists there. Like Rich Kilton was there, Seth Oster. There were a lot of local players. Lucas Trawler was there playing orcs, I believe.
Yeah.
So
they had an orc off.
Mark was playing orcs. Cool. It was really cool to see everybody trying out different. Like Rich Kilton came with Evil Sons. There were some more vehicle heavy armies, tons of Squig Riders. So I was really intrigued by the list we were seeing there. And then this past weekend, 2 orc lists went 5-0. Finished first and second at the Alberta Classic GT. Beating out things like Admech, Aldari, Iron Warriors, etc. And then the other event, which leads to the second question, was Iron went 6-0. And what do we think of the resurgence of that? They have good rules. They have really durable units. You saw on the channel we played a stream game of Custodians vs. Iron Hands, and Jack had a really cool list. I was able to take it with some shenanigans like Tanglefoot, but even then, they're just first of all, they're baseline Marines, which just means you're good. You get access to Rights of War, even though Jack didn't take it, and he should have in that game, because my gosh, that's a powerful warlord trait. But they have great tool access. They have the 6s to wound or additional wounds. I've been seeing like people bring back grab pods to help against Skitarii bricks. A lot of these Iron Hands lists are very tuned to try and deal with Admech. So you can stack a lot of defensive buffs on a unit of Centurions or on a unit of Terminators and let them survive even out in the open against Admech, giving them Feel No Pain access, bringing models back with the Chief Apothecary. And then they also come with a lot of shooting, either ignore line of sight with the Whirlwind Scorpius, or you get some a character dread with double Volkite and the Cyclone Missile Launcher. It just shoots there all turn. Admech doesn't have easy ways to interact with it unless they're running lots of Cerberus Raiders. So yeah, I think these Iron Hand lists are really cool, and a lot of books have options that every once in a while they become good, like Tau, for example, with plasma rifles. If you're ever going to run plasma rifles, this would be the meta where you're trying to get a ton of AP3 shots out. Volume of Fire AP3 into Skitarii bricks. This would be the time for plasma.
Just because you have to get through all those buffs, you know, and it's worth it. Sometimes you just have to make those choices based on what you're seeing.
Every time
Iron Hands are like they're good. They're beefy.
Every time a new book comes out and the meta starts to shift, it's always worth going back to these older codexes and seeing what tools are good into them. So like when Drukhari was getting very good, I went back into the Tau Codex. Like, what can I do here that can help against Drukhari? Missile pods are the perfect profile. You know, they don't particularly deal well with transports because they don't have volume of fire. especially post Dark Technomancer racks falling away. So transports are actually quite good into Drukhari. So on. All seem to have the Sakaran Arcus too. I played against the Arcus round 1 of ACO, and that thing was annoying. It was in a space.
Out of line of sight, super. Yeah, out of line of sight, Sakaran, right?
Yeah, and it
annoying. Yeah.
It picked up my grab drone, unfortunately, because that guy was going to just subtract D3 to every charge roll in the middle of the table for the entire game if he didn't have that tank. Unfortunately, he did. But it was a very cool tool.
People are liking that over the Sakaran, and like the Whirlwind Scorpius. It's like the new hotness. If instead of a Scorpius you take that guy, seems to be a little bit more efficient. So.
Is the new Grey Knight book better than the old one? 100%. The old Codex was a pile of trash. It was the worst book in 8th edition. I'll stand by that. And it basically had no warlord traits and relics, and it had a couple decent stratagems, and the data sheets were
that was overcompensation from the Psych Out Grenades era, or whatever it was.
But now, this book actually has tools in it. It might only have one playstyle. That's the biggest concern there, is honestly they kind of completely neutered the shooting playstyle. So I think you're going to build Grey Knights as a melee army, and we'll see how many tools you can add around a melee army to make them play the mission well and beat other melee armies. Because like Scary said earlier, they don't have fight last access, which is very powerful in a melee mirror matchup where you can engage 2 areas and activate first in both. So we'll see how they do. I'm going to put them on the table tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, against John Lennon playing the Thousand Suns. And hopefully tomorrow we can also do a little hot takes video after the stream game. What can Tau do against Grey Knights? Like, in terms of soaking up mortals and stuff, Devilfish are amazing at that. You have drones that can do it. So Tau have tons of cheap stuff. Breachers don't mind taking mortal wounds. So the
drones,
mortals
I think, would be
issue.
one of the easiest to do.
Grey Knights losing access to indirect fire means they can't deal with your stuff. They only kill the stuff that you want them to kill, whatever you put out in the open. And Grey Knights also don't have a ton of fly keyword. If they're not running fly keyword melee units.
Also, for all the mortal wounds and stuff you can get with the flying Craft Remoras and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, mortals help, but they can also screen out all the gate plays. Tau is an amazing screening army, so if you're trying to set up Gate of Infinity plays, Tau are very good at denying that and slowing it down. Let's see. Psychic Onslaught and Cybolt ammo aren't horrible, I don't think. They're not horrible, no. Grey Knights have a few decent strats. Some of the good ones are 2 CP or more, and that's a little unfortunate. Because we're seeing in the more modern books that like 1 CP is pretty much most strats, and maybe you have 1 or 2 CP ones. So I think their strat suite isn't bad. It's not as good as the Psychic Awakening book. The Psychic Awakening book was amazing. Had amazing strats in there, and they were good on pretty much anything.
They were really good. Hopefully, and sadly, they didn't get to see it in full force.
Yeah. So the strats are better than the Codex ones, but 8th edition Codex ones, but I think a little worse than the Psychic Awakening ones. The consistency in their powers decreasing is going to be pretty interesting. Some of the powers went up in casting value, and they don't have pluses to cast anymore. If your Psychic phase is more inconsistent, that's going to be tough for Grey Knights, I think. So we're going to see how that plays out tomorrow.
It seems like they're more like we're going to punch you really hard and move around the table really fast, kind of like, but with psychic support rather than we're a psychic army that can shoot, which is like, I don't know, just a different style.
Yeah, it's a totally different style. So we're going to see how it performs. Like I said, I really like the infantry units, and then they have very strong characters. So we'll see if that's enough to carry them.
Drago, I think, is still a boss.
He is absolutely a boss.
Is he Supreme Commander too?
Yes.
Nice. So add him into the detachment within the detachment. How do you feel about the Scarab Occult Terminators, Sistorian? Well, personally, haven't read the Thousand Suns book yet. However, I believe that the play with chain cannons is really the thing that we're going to be seeing a lot from Scarab Occult Terminators. They're apparently really good now. So, more to come when we start playing testing all that stuff.
That's what Thousand Suns needed, though, was their actual unique data sheets to be more powerful. They didn't need better psychic powers or anything. Their psychic tree was already very
Although
strong.
Magnus, like, knowing, like, pretty much every psychic power is hilarious.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll still see Magnus.
You know, he suffers from I'm a big model that you can shoot syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Here, take 50 saves from my Vanguard veterans or whatever. Vanguard Skitari. Sure. You know, you can have a great invulnerable save. Doesn't that one save you? Timothy says, thanks for all the great content and advice. You're welcome, Timothy. I ran my Knights list I've been bugging you guys about for the last couple of weeks. I went 3-0 at my second RTT ever.
3-0. Congrats. Well played.
Done,
and with Knights, no less. Was that a triple Majera?
Table everyone.
I mean, the Majeras can do it.
Yeah,
anybody
really can do it. It's the Majeras. Oh yeah.
Knight players are going to be so sad. I bet the Knight Codex creates a whole bunch of new keywords and doesn't interact at all with the Forge World Knights.
I could see that, but I could also see them finally getting OBSEC. Have you ever seen?
Yeah, they'll certainly get new stuff.
Oh yeah, but they'll get a knight is worth 5 OBSEC near an objective, and then a big knight's worth 10 OBSEC near an objective, and then the warlord trade will be 20 models near an objective. So have you seen the big AOS giants that they released?
I saw pictures of them. I didn't.
So the AOS giants have a mechanic like that. Like one of the big giants can count up to 30 models on an objective.
That's cool.
Right? So I could see them sort of bringing that. And if Knights had access to something like that, all of a sudden it makes Knights playable for the missions, which I think is really important.
Yeah, that is part of their biggest problem, is they don't have a lot of cheap resources and they don't have access to OBSEC outside of that Freeblade Knight. So,
or allies, right?
Or allies.
Yeah,
which they are really trying to make pure armies a thing.
More viable.
The most common way to play.
Yeah.
Which they've been succeeding at, to be fair.
2 Majera, 4 Moriaxes, and 3 Warglaves.
Ooh,
yeah, makes sense.
John will be very proud to hear that. So make sure you share it with him when he comes back. He loves the Knights. He was playing a bunch of Knights at Charity Hammer as well for some of the fun stream games.
Nice.
Chaos Spawn are going to be hot in Thousand Suns. Units of 5 for 115 points. You can make them 4 up invuln. If anybody's going to run tons of Spawn, it's going to be Mr. Mark Perry, for sure. He is a big fan of Chaos Spawn.
High aggro style Mark Perry list.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Just tons of strange units that you typically never see.
I'm curious to see what they did with the Enlightened and the Zangor, to be honest. Because there was a time when, Zangor Enlightened with those bows were, the meta thing to do. It was, to take 27 of them or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah, in a meta that didn't have Tau. Because I'll tell you what, Tau picked those things up in seconds. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of heavy burst cannons, just 1 unit down, 1 unit down. So I played against it one time. That had no chance whatsoever against old Tau. But it'd be really cool to see the Zangor stuff. I know they got the restriction where you can't have more of the Bray units than you do Scarab Occult and the Rubric.
Well, makes sense. That's a very...
Yeah.
You've got Poxwalkers, right, for...
It's a very 9th edition rule, yeah.
Yeah, and you've got, the Bray.
We don't want you spamming these units.
Yeah.
And I assume Tau will get the same thing for Alien Auxiliaries.
Did Thousand Suns cultists also lose objective secured, like the Death Guard ones?
Probably.
Yeah, I would assume as much.
I haven't seen all the different sheets. Unfortunately, we didn't get preview copies, but...
Zangors with bows are now snipers. Okay, well that would be fun if there wasn't a million bodyguard rules.
Hey, Admech doesn't have bodyguard rules. That could be interesting.
That is very true, actually. Against Admech, that would be really useful.
Sniping is great into Admech.
You have to get rid of those freaking buffing characters. They're not, and
They're
Advent
all like
doesn't
cheap.
have like they were like super cheap, but they don't have like the craziest defensive stats. Yeah, they have good like armor saves.
They lost self-healing too. The tech priests. They used to be able to heal D3. Any Tau release rumors? None whatsoever, unfortunately. I have no idea where Tau is coming. I honestly wish they were doing a box set of Tau versus GSC right now. Those are the two armies that really need some love.
I'm loving the chat for these Zangors. That's pretty cool.
Zangors suck. Zangors suck. 4-up more weapon skill. Just 7 points though. Come on, 7-point models.
Yeah, they're cheapo. You know, just flood the board, good screening units, grab the back objectives. Like, you know, they'll supplement your 1,000 suns.
Trading piece on an objective. You smite something away. You don't want to stand out there with something important. Here, Zangors, get out there and touch it.
Like it's good to have cheapo stuff that you don't need, that you don't care about.
There's the question of the day. RBD is marking a play Vortex Beasts. It remains to be seen. I messaged him about what he thought, and he didn't respond yet. So he's still probably very tired and traveling back from Charity Hammer. But we will get his opinion on the Vortex Beast, no doubt. How are Ynnari? They are one of, if not the most unloved faction in 40k right now. They haven't been mentioned in a long time. They got a White Dwarf supplement a while ago, and that's basically the last time we've heard of Ynnari. There's a bunch of restrictions if you want to run Ynnari with Drukhari stuff. So they're basically going to be their own thing, it seems, for the most part. And the rules that they have aren't terrible, but they're also not amazing. And right now they're held down by the fact that the Craftworld datasheets aren't the best. Craftworld datasheets are really held up by their psychic tree, which you don't get access to in Ynnari. So I think that's the biggest limitation there. However, Eldar will eventually come out. It's a super popular codex. I'm surprised it hasn't been released yet. I imagine that and Chaos Space Marines are like the two huge codexes that we still haven't seen yet. So they have to be on the horizon.
Well, Orcs I think are a big one. But yeah, you get Eldar. Like there are Eldar players everywhere.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna come out of cracks in the walls. You know, at your local tournaments, people who you haven't seen in a long time. And historically speaking, when Eldar books get released, like the whole meta just shakes. Just historically speaking.
Usually it's a silly book with silly rules.
Usually it's a silly book. But that has to get FAQ'd pretty fast.
I have to, we haven't heard anything whatsoever about Ynnari. So if you like the other Eldar factions, if you like Drukhari stuff, if you like Craftworlds, then you should be fine. Because as those books change, you could just go to play Drukhari and Craftworlds and wait till Ynnari gets something. But if you were expecting them to get like a full lush set of rules, like these other big factions are getting, I'd be hesitant, honestly. So as long as you like the other Eldari factions and could potentially just switch to them, you'll be fine. If you only like Ynnari, if Ynnari is like the only part of Eldar you like, I'd be pretty nervous about them getting a large, cohesive 9th edition rule set.
Yeah, I could see them potentially getting like a supplement with like a, like a supplement sort of thing, and then having access to like, I don't know, a upgrade sprue or something that gives you like some like Inari-esque style aesthetic things that you can glue onto your models.
Yeah, if you're new to the game, Ynnari were absolutely broken in 7th and 8th edition.
And 6. Late 6.
They exist in 6th edition? I thought they were 7th edition, the late 7th thing.
No, I believe they came in. Then 7th they changed, or was it early 7th? Anyway, they came around that time.
But,
and
they were just straight up broken, and they got nerfed several times. And...
Well, the Ynnari didn't get nerfed. The Eldar that was taken as part of the Ynnari were the ones that suffered the brunt of the nerfs.
Yeah,
they were like, let's not change the mechanics of the Ynnari. Let's just make the units that people like taking as Ynnari 10 times more expensive.
But then they did destroy the mechanics too.
then they also destroyed the mechanics, and then all the Eldar stuff was just super hyper inflated in cost because of the atrocities they had done as Inari.
Yeah,
is why
7th
a lot of
edition
these-
Soulburst,
yeah.
just bananas. John will tell you a
my
story about
God.
him
It's
having
terrible.
a Hive Tyrant Perils in his own turn and losing like 1,000 points of his army because of that. Because the Inari army just started killing everything.
Yep, double activations, triple. It was triple activations,
Yeah.
twice in your turn and once in your opponent's. It was just so dumb, especially when you combined it with like, no rule of 3 or whatever. So you could have like 60 warp spiders and like, oh my gosh, like it's terrible, absolutely terrible. Good riddance, in my opinion.
We're well beyond that point, luckily.
Yeah. People are like, oh, they complain about AdMech or whatever. Oh no, AdMech is too broken. Oh my gosh, you have no idea. Like,
sweet summer child. You have no idea.
Exactly. You do not know what we've lived through. This is nothing compared to.
But they were also not
50
responsive.
rocket.
Publishing
Correct.
FAQs
Back
and
in the
stuff.
day.
Just leave
Oh
it.
god.
It just you're broken. You stay broken.
If it was bad, it was bad for like 5 years, and it was the same thing, like for 5 years. Oh gosh, it's terrible. Was it last?